So between the time that I met Josh and 2 hours later, we had flights ready to go for Mexico.
And I stumbled across this little Christian bookstore. I spotted your book, so I took the book home and gave it to him, and he started reading it.
We actually hadn't even officially met until today, like in person. But you had met another guy, Josh.
Talking to Josh, and from hearing his conversation with other people, I realized he probably saw some combat time. And I said, hey man, have you ever heard of this book? It's called Healing Through Service. He actually said no. It's really cool. It's based on science and scripture. It's written by a guy who goes by Sergeant Q. His eyes actually perked up and he goes, oh yeah, that's Aaron Quinones. I'm like, dude, how the heck do you know that? He goes, oh, I'll be seeing him on Monday. I'm like, what? Oh man, I says, well, can you do me a favor? Is it okay if you give me his Facebook info so I can send him a message and thank him for writing this book? Next thing you know, I get a return message from you saying that this next week, you've got a group of people that's going to Mexico, you're building homes, you've got a husband and wife that dropped out, and you've got openings. You said there are no coincidences, just divine appointments.
And he's like, we just bought plane tickets and we don't even know this guy. We've never met him. Like, we don't know nothing. I just gave out my information. Like, what are we doing, you know?
So between the time that I met Josh and 2 hours later, we had flights ready to go for Mexico.
So I served 8 years in the Marine Corps, and my last year was in Iraq. And when I came back, I was struggling with mental health, PTSD, anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideations. And I didn't know where to find help. I got invited by my church to come to Mexico to build a home for a homeless family. And I gotta be honest, I didn't really want to do it. I didn't want to go outside the borders of the US anymore. But I felt God nudging my heart, and so I came. And when I was here, serving God's people, something fundamentally changed inside of me. I felt hope and joy, emotions that I hadn't experienced in years. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew I needed more. So I asked my church, when are we coming back? They said, we only do it one time a year. So I started traveling with other organizations, building schools, churches, orphanages, digging wells, helping the most vulnerable in our populations. During that process, I learned that there was healing from trauma through serving God and serving my community. And so Q Missions was born. And we started taking veterans down to Mexico, to the very place where I found healing through serving God's people and serving their communities. And now I lead hundreds of veterans through this process. We've published a book and have an online curriculum, all trying to help veterans overcome trauma through this process that we call healing through service. So when I first started taking veterans here, we were just building a house. But I knew there needed to be more. I had to teach them everything that I knew about the brain and the Bible. So I published a book and built a curriculum. And so the first day that they get here, they learn all of these life lessons that took me over a decade to compile and learn, they get in one day. Then they leave with a skill set and a tool set that they can use back home. Not just to build a home here, but to rebuild their communities and rebuild their families. The brain-body connection is something that most people don't truly understand. So by the end of this first day, they have a good understanding of the negative bias, the brain-body connection, the amygdala hijack, and how to be able to build positive mental resiliency through serving their community and serving God.
For the last 5 months, I've been in a hole. Carolyn came up to us at the end of service. She had a vision of me underwater. That I couldn't breathe and I was dying. And then all of a sudden, my hand just shot out of the water and I screamed, I'm alive.